Like a lot of human history, they had a trial and error type of process when it came to hygienics, and with the ancient Romans, they definitely had a hit and miss type of scenario when it came to adjusting to hygiene. Hi, my name is Jessa, and we're going to look at the top 10 messed up ancient Roman hygiene practices. Number 10, soaps. Some of the wealthiest people in the period may have access to clean water through servants, who were also called water carriers. These were the people that would bring fresh water to the home for individuals to bathe. If you were poor, as the majority of the people of the period were, you would have to travel to the nearest river to collect clean water. Although we often stereotype them as incredibly dirty when it comes to status of economics, they were very clean back in the day, as soap was invented by ancient Babylonians as early as 2800 BC. Archaeologists have also found remains of what they believe to be soap in clay cylinders, found at historic sites. Some of these containers have inscriptions like fats boiled with ashes, which was a very common way of making soap. But this was also a medical text produced around 1500 BC, which contained details on how they combined animal and vegetable oils with salt to make soap. This soap was not only used for washing, but also to treat skin conditions. The Romans, like the Greeks, also understood that dirt was causing diseases, and they were famous for building aqueducts to supply their towns with clean water. They also built public baths as well as cold and hot rooms. Number 9, hygiene in the kitchen. Now we know when it comes to ancient Roman times, and most times in this era when it came to the concept of using soap to clean wasn't as common, and although they were well versed in utilizing systems for water like aqueducts that were channeling thousands of gallons of fresh water into Rome each day, which also supplying hundreds of public water basins and bathing establishments throughout the city, when it came to meal prep and preparing food for families, if you were a slave, they didn't really have an easy sink or a usage of soap when it came to cleaning. Cleaning utensils and cookware was somewhat problematic. Although metalware could be cleaned with sand, earthenware dishes and pots were quickly rendered unfit for use and thus needed to be constantly replaced. This would account for the considerable amount of broken items found in excavations. Fortunately, the local potteries would have also been to turn out plenty of cheap dishes for ordinary use. But also when it came to their diet as well in today's society, we are told to have 3 square meals a day, but in reality back in ancient Rome, Romans would only eat 1 to 2 meals a day. The first breakfast, also known as breaking a fast, would usually be around noon, and they would also have their dinner, cena, at around 3 to 4 p.m. Number 8, shared bathhouses. Romans went to public baths together, and depending on the time period, this could also be a co-ed, although we know at times women bathed in separate facilities or at particular times of the day. Especially spending time at the baths were integral as part of the Romans' daily ritual, with women visiting the baths in the morning and men in the afternoon. What is not commonly known is that the sick and healthy often bathed together, for doctors regularly recommended that their patients visiting the bathhouses for their therapeutic value. The ill apparently preferred a visit to the baths at midday or at night when the general public did not frequent them, but still, the water is also colorless, and the algae lives in the water as it takes on this green color, which is some that we have seen photos in regards to Roman baths. In Roman times, it would not have been clear because the roof did not let sunlight into the baths, as well as the Romans did not have disinfectant, and while the evidence is scanty, it is likely that the bathing pools, which did not have circulating water, were the only periodically emptied and then cleaned. As well as the picture that emerges, that is that the Roman baths were not in pristine hygienic places that we're imagining, as we can imagine them, of how they could have really been. Number 7, hygiene in death. The evidence suggests that there was no distinction in mortality rates between men and women, but it is likely that in epidemics, women under the age of 40 experience higher mortality rate than men, and this would have been due to women's harder work regimes and poorer diets than those of their male counterparts, as well as the dangers associated with childbirth. On average, the life expectancy of birth of women between 20 to 30 years old, and that men were a bit higher. Of course, slaves had a shorter life expectancy, probably not living much beyond 20 years, and so the concept of cremation was very common in the ancient times. While the Romans practiced cremation and inhumation simultaneously, cremation burial was the preferred method, and crematories were safely situated in the periphery of the city, adjacent to the cemetery. But keep in mind the air exhumed from cremation spreads and cause health and ecosystem risks. Cremation creates air pollutants such as nitrogen oxide, carbon monoxide, and particulate matter, as the pollutants are known to have adverse health impacts on both humans and the environment, as well as the contribution to the pollution of the air. Number 6, Roman toilets were a dangerous place. The disposal of waste was a significant concern of densely populated urban areas. Waste and sewage would be thrown into the streets or carried away through a complex system of drains and sewers. Aqueducts, as we know, brought fresh water into the city for drinking and bathing, but that seemed pretty functional until you discover that being in Roman latrine areas could also be pretty dangerous. And I'm not just talking about assassination attacks. The disposal of waste was a significant concern in densely populated urban areas. Waste and sewage would be thrown into the streets or carried away through a complex system of drains and sewers. Aqueducts, as we know, would be bringing the fresh water, but the first problem was the multitude of creatures ranging from bugs and scorpions that would reside in the sewage system and might even crawl up and bite people on the other side. The second problem was that the gas buildup, which might also explode or kill or seriously injure restroom patrons, and this was because Roman public latrines were so choked up in hydrogen sulfide and methane that gases could ignite and even explode. This is why so many Romans drew magical symbols and spells and images of gods on the walls of toilets to keep them safe from frightening underground forces that could conceptualize it. Also, they also came equipped with the statues of Fortuna, the goddess of luck, guarding them against any danger. Number 5, my shiny teeth and me. Toothpaste-like substance were used for oral hygiene. Romans used powders or paste made from ingredients like crushed bones, oyster shells, and charcoal. Toothpicks, also small sticks, were used as rudimentary toothbrushes. But sometimes, for the ancient Romans, they would often use stale urine as mouthwash. And not just humans, even animal pee as well. They would also act as a whitener for the teeth, and the thing is, it does work since our urine does contain not just ammonia, but also a compound of nitrogen and hydrogen. Overall, it is generally good cleaning agent, as today ammonia is used as a cleaning product for many hard surfaces like stainless steel, grime off one's oven, and glass and porcelain. Urine also became in so much demand that Romans who tried to sell it actually had to pay a tax due to the smell. And Romans considered having white teeth of a great value, but then again, it was also a common insult to see someone with shiny teeth, as they would say you're full of piss, which is, I'm guessing, where the saying was originating from. Number 4, dirty graffiti. Romans loved dirty jokes, and a lot of them, and that's why when you walk through the ruins of Pompeii, you will be confronted with a lot of middle school humor. I mean, if you had a textbook in high school and saw a bunch of graffiti, did you even live? And considering a lot of the humor back in the day seemed childish, it was also very common. Besides this dirty graffiti, phallic symbols like the wang would be found everywhere throughout the length and breadth of the empire, from the city of Pompeii to the remote parts of the empire. Roman public walls were repleted with graffiti, scratchings, carvings, mosaics, frescoes, and they also created erotic statues, wind chimes, necklaces, amulets, and rings, and you know why? Well, why not? Number 3, weird Roman medicine. Roman authors report people collecting the blood of dead gladiators and selling it as medicine. The blood of defeated gladiators became medicine for the people with epilepsy, while the winners' blood became for aphrodisiacs, and somehow the fate of those who won or who lost during the battles was a determining factor of the ancient folk of Rome. There were also reports where some people removed gladiators' liver and ate them raw for vitality, while others prolonged their treatment by repeatedly drinking the blood of decapitated gladiators. Number 2, another first aid. Aside collecting blood of winners and losers of gladiator fights, when it came to first aid, that they had their own way, for example, patching up wounds. The Romans didn't have band-aids, and according to Pliny the Elder, people in Rome patched up wounds and animal bites with goat dung. Goat dung was also drunk, both as well as an energy drink, and to ward off bodily weaknesses due to illnesses. And goat dung was either boiled in vinegar or grounded into powder and mixed into other drinks. This concoction was drunk by the poorest Roman citizens all the way up to the Emperor Nero himself. Maybe that's why he went crazy. Pliny was mentioned the use of mouse, weasel, and pigeon dung as well for the use of cautery. And finally, number 1, one sponge for everyone. If you went to the toilet in ancient Rome, you would not have any toilet paper. Instead, you may have used a sponge to wipe, as these ancient devices consist of a stick with vinegar or salt water soaked sponge attached. The tool, also called xylospongium, consists of a wooden stick with a sponge fixed at one end, and these sponge sticks were attached to the bathroom benches. People shared them and seldom cleaned them between uses. Slaves may have also cleaned these sponges once or twice a month and in a bucket of vinegar, and it seemed that they may have also been used more like a toilet brush than toilet paper. So not only are you using it to wipe, you're using it to clean. And there were also a few of them in public toilets, so people managed with what was there by sharing the sponge. This turned into a Roman toilet with breeding grounds for bacteria, as it is no wonder that the disease like cholera and typhoid was very common among ancient Romans. Despite it all, it did seem like the pros and con list of scenarios when it came to health and hygienics in the ancient Roman times, but they did what they could do, sponge and all. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. Hope you learned something. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. My name is Jess, and I wish you all the best. Bye.